Alright, so today I want to introduce you to the pinstripe ball python. And the pinstripe's been around since the very beginning of the ball python craze, and it's probably one of the most popular morphs on the market today. Yeah, I'd say you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone breeding ball pythons who doesn't have pinstripe in his collection. And for me, personally, it's one of my favorite morphs. It's pretty much as close as you can get to a completely gold snake. And when they're really young, it seems like they're really bright gold. It is really an impressive snake. And when it's mixed with other combos, I would say probably it's on par with the champagne and the coral glow in that it is really visually dominant when it comes to mixing with other genes. Mixes really well, but let me tell you, if you have a whole group of hatchlings and you're going through trying to identify your hatchlings, you could definitely tell there's pinstripe in the mix because of how dominant it is in the visual appearance of the snake. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to jump over to the internet and I want to show you the potential of the pinstripe. Alright, so I'm over here at the World of Ball Pythons, and this is what a pinstripe looks like. It's a pretty impressive snake. As a matter of fact, if you scroll through some of these pictures, let me tell you, these pictures do not do the pinstripe justice. Let me tell you, if you're holding a hatchling pinstripe, it essentially is like a bright gold. It almost glows. It's such a bright gold snake. The pinstripe is a pretty amazing gene. And as far as I know, there's really no defects as far as head wobbles or duck bills or kinking in the spine or some of the stuff you find with other ones. The only really genetic anomaly that I've seen with the pinstripe is that they consider it a dominant mutation instead of co-dominant, which is kind of interesting. I don't really know why. It's essentially, when we say dominant, it means that there's no super form. So if you breed a pinstripe with a pinstripe, you can't get a super pinstripe. And let me tell you, there is some debate whether you can actually get a super pinstripe or not. But if you look over here on the World of Ball Pythons, look right above the name pinstripe, it says dominant, and you come over here to the same website, the Genetic Wizard, you cross a pinstripe with a pinstripe, and this is what you get. You get normals, pinstripes, and where you would normally get a super pinstripe, it just lists pinstripe, which is kind of weird. I'm not exactly sure why you don't get a super pinstripe in some of these cases. It's kind of interesting how the genetics work. But the interesting thing as well as that is you actually come over here to Morph Market, and some people have actually listed super pinstripes or possible super pinstripes. And I'm not sure if the breeders are just not really aware that there's not a super, or if someone has actually produced the super and proved it out, and I'm just not aware that someone actually produced it and is producing whole clutches of pinstripes from their super pinstripe. And I thought this was kind of interesting. They're saying a possible super pinstripe on this one, and the sides are completely wiped out. There's no pattern. So based on this, I'm looking at, this looks a little bit different than just the normal pinstripe. This could possibly be a super pinstripe, which would be kind of interesting as far as the genetics. And you can still tell, even, you know, for a super pinstripe, the price is $225, still pretty reasonable. Here's an albino, and I say the albino is really popular. They sell really good at the shows. Everybody loves the straight albino. It's really striking, and they always have red eyes. And you mix the albino with the pinstripe, and you get a really impressive snake. I don't think there's actually a common name for the albino pinstripe. No slang for this one. It's just an albino pinstripe. And I really love how the pinstripe really kind of breaks through the albino. It really keeps the albino look, but you can definitely tell that there's pinstripe in there. Here's the axanthic. The axanthic's kind of neat. There's so many genes I want to get into, and axanthic is definitely on my list of potential genes to invest in sometime in the future. I'm not sure if it's the near future. I'm actually focusing pretty much more on clowns and desert ghosts, but I definitely want to get into the axanthic sometime. You mix axanthic with the pinstripe and you get a really impressive snake. Take a look at this. It just wipes out all the color and you're left with kind of a silvery snake with black and white. It's really an impressive combo. Here's the clown, and I would say when it comes to clowns, the clown is more of a pattern mutation. You mix it with the pinstripe and it mixes, as far as I'm concerned, it is one of the best combos. You mix clown and pinstripe together. It makes a really unique snake that doesn't look like a lot of the clown combos, and this is what it looks like. This is crazy. You know, if you're actually starting a reptile channel and you're looking for a snake like Bobby to put around your neck, I would think that a pinstripe clown would be phenomenal. And everyone would be asking, what in the world is that? That is like no other snake I've ever seen before. That is one of the most impressive combos. I'm definitely going to work pinstripe into my clown project. This is an interesting project. This is Caramel Albino. Caramel Albino it's kind of known for the kinking in the spine. It was really popular at one point, and then it kind of fell out of popularity. And then we found out that the kinking is really related to certain lines of the Caramel Albino. Some people have been producing them for a long time and never had a problem with the kinking in the spine. It's kind of one of the defects, kind of like the spider with the head wobble. You just have to be aware of some of these defects when you're getting into the gene. This is what it looks like when you mix the Caramel Albino with the pinstripe. That is a pretty neat snake. Essentially, it takes away most of the gold color and it kind of turns it into kind of a caramel color, which is kind of interesting. I'd say it's like a different shade of a pinstripe. Pretty much keeps most of the same pattern when you're looking at the caramel pinstripe. Here's another one, the GHI. The GHI is a dark gene. It makes a lot of dark combos. You mix it with Mojave, you get a really black snake with almost a fluorescent line right down the top of the snake. Here's what happens when you mix it with pinstripe. You get a really dark snake, and it really kind of breaks up the pattern quite a bit more, and it makes it really kind of interesting. It's almost like a dark gold snake. And unfortunately, there's only one picture on this website, so you really can't see a lot of the different. Sometimes there's a lot of variations between different snakes, even though they have the same genes. So I thought that was an interesting combo. Here's the leopard. The leopard is definitely one of the ones I'm going to bring into my collection at some point. Maybe I should think about doing like a leopard combo with maybe an axanthic. That would be kind of neat to kind of bring multiple genes in on the same snake and then bring them into my collection that way. The leopard is, I would say, it's probably the king of combos. Works really well with a lot of different morphs. And here's what happens when you mix it with the pinstripe. Now, let me tell you, this is one of the most impressive snakes that I've seen. It almost takes the lines and it breaks it up into spots. This is really crazy, and it really still keeps the gold of the snake. I'd say the leopard pinstripe is probably one of my favorite pinstripe combos. Here's the Desert Ghost. This is kind of what I'm really focusing on more lately, is the Desert Ghost, trying to work Desert Ghost into more genes, bring it into my collection. Some of the Desert Ghosts are really amazing. Here's what happens when you mix it with the pinstripe. It is really an incredible combo. It takes the pinstripe and it completely changes the color and the intensity of the snake. It's pretty amazing. Here's the Orange Dream, and I'd say the Orange Dream is a really subtle morph. Sometimes it's hard to tell that you actually have an Orange Dream, and some lines of Orange Dream are really intense. You mix a super Orange Dream, and it's actually glowing. It's so bright, it's pretty amazing. Here's what happens when you mix the Orange Dream with the pinstripe. And when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking this must be the high intensity line of Orange Dream with the pinstripe. This is an amazing snake. And I'd say the Orange Dream kind of fades a little bit as it gets older, but when they're small hatchlings, they can really glow. It's a really amazing. I definitely want to get Orange Dreams. There's so many genes I want to bring into my collection, but you only have so much room and only so much time in a day to actually take care of that many animals. But it'd be cool to bring in the Orange Dream. Here's the Coral Glow. I actually have both Coral Glow and Banana in my collection. Essentially, they're two different lines of the same snake. They were discovered by two different people. And then later on, they realized they actually had the same snake, named it two different names, and they just pretty much kept them as separate lines, but they're pretty much interchangeable. This is a really extremely dominant visual effect when you mix Coral Glow with snakes. So it'd be interesting to see you mix a Coral Glow, which is visually dominant, with the pinstripe, which is visually dominant, and take a look at what you get. You get a Coral Glow pinstripe. You can definitely tell there's pinstripe and Coral Glow in there. It's a really impressive snake. I really like how bright this is. This is really cool. I'd actually like to take this and mix Desert Ghost on top of that. That would be a really screaming combo. So fire is kind of interesting. I actually produced my first fires this year. You breed two fires together, you get a super fire, which is an all white snake with a little bit of yellow on the back, and it has black eyes. It's a really cool, and actually you mix fire with like pastel or orange dream or some of the lighter orange yellow kind of combos, and it really makes them really intense and cleans them up. This is what happens when you mix fire with the pinstripe, and you can definitely tell it's lightening and enhancing this is like really crazy. As a matter of fact, if you mix pastel on top of this, you get a firefly pinstripe. That would be a really crazy snake too. And you can tell some lines looks like some are a lot brighter than others, and it really depends on, I think it depends on the age of the snake and the certain line of fire that you can get in there as well. Here's an Enchi, and I'd say Enchi is essentially a pattern reducing gene where it reduces the pattern, kind of shrinks it down, breaks it up a little bit, and it also intensifies the brightness of the snake. Here's what happens when you mix Enchi and pinstripe. You can definitely tell it's definitely shrunk down the pattern on the pinstripe and just pretty much reduced it to, instead of a line, kind of little spots. And the funny thing about Enchi is there's different lines of Enchi. Some of them have hardly any effect, and some of them, if you have just one copy of the gene, it almost looks like a super Enchi. As a matter of fact, I bought my my Enchi Banana Clown, one of the snakes I bought this year, and it looks like super Enchi. And actually, I've seen some lines that are really super reducing like that. You mix them together and you almost get a snake with no pattern on the super Enchi, because it reduces the pattern almost down to nothing, and it really depends on the specific line of Enchi. Here's the lesser, and the lesser is another gene that's pretty much in everybody's collection along with the pinstripes. The lesser is in the blue-eyed leucistic complex. You mix it with another snake in the same complex, you get an all-white snake with blue eyes, probably the most popular snake at the shows. I actually had a bamboo lesser that I brought to the last few shows, and everybody was looking at it, but it was a really expensive snake, and I actually had two of them. I sold one, decided to keep the male, and it's an amazing snake. It's also allelic too, so if I breed it to anything else, half the babies come out bamboo, half the babies come out lesser, because it's a lesser bamboo blue-eyed leucistic. Lesser is really awesome, and here's what happens when you mix lesser with the pinstripe. You get a kingpin, and the other thing is I was looking at the kingpin, which I really love the kingpin, the mix of the lesser and the pinstripe. I was actually thinking of taking my blue-eyed leucistic, breeding it back to a lemon blast, which is a pastel pinstripe, and I'll actually get a kingpin. The other thing I'll actually get is a nitrous, and let me show you what a nitrous is. That is the bamboo with a pinstripe. Here's the bamboo, kind of like Bobby. You mix it with the pinstripe, and you get the nitrous. I really love this. As a matter of fact, I saw some pictures of a nitrous that was a little bit older than this, and let me tell you, these pictures don't do the nitrous justice. It is a really impressive combo. So the pied, I'd say the pinstripe works really well with the pied. As a matter of fact, I do have a pinstripe pied female, and I'm still trying to get it up to weight. It's a few years old, still not big enough to breed, but here's what it looks like when you mix the two together. I'd say probably hands down, this is one of my favorite combos between the pinstripe and the pied. It makes for, it's almost a gold snake with the splotches of white. I really love this snake. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And Detective Wobuffet asks, have you ever proven out your females and produced a caramel albino hatchling? And that is a very good question. As a matter of fact, when I first started in ball pythons, I picked up two normal looking snakes from Morph Market. And essentially what I was looking for is the biggest females at the time. And my biggest one weighs almost 5,000 grams. She is a really big snake. She's almost two snakes in one. She can almost lay 15 eggs at a time. It's pretty amazing. She was sold to me as 100% head caramel albino. And this is actually the very first year that I'm going to prove her out. So I actually bred my male scaleless head to her last year, produced some scaleless head males, 50% head caramel albino. Then this year I'm going to breed two of those back to two of my females that are 100% head caramel albino and see if I can hit the scaleless head visual caramel albino. That would be pretty awesome. awesome. So that's pretty much it. Actually, I'm working on another video right now for my Patreon supporters, kind of a behind the scene. But that wraps up this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.